Tell me you know nothing about aircraft without telling me you know nothing about aircraft. Right. So we've got this guy, Dave Pakman. Pakman? Pakman. Wobba wobba. Dave Pakman thinks that Air Force One is this amazing magical thing that because Trump said it's in mint condition, he thinks that it's got an unlimited service life and it can basically do anything.
So you might have heard that Donald Trump is retiring Air Force One. Just a few days ago, he said this about our current Air Force One.
But take a look at that plane. See that plane? That's in perfect mint condition.
If it's in mint condition, if it's perfect, why are we retiring it and paying insane amounts of money to re-outfit the Qatari jet? It doesn't make any sense.
Idiot, and you have no idea what you're talking about, as per usual. So we're going to go over this topic because I think Dave needs a bit of a lesson on engineering. And what better person to tell you about engineering than me? There's probably better people, but... So, basically when an aircraft goes through what we call a cycle, that means a pressurization cycle. Pressurization cycles can come in, well, it's one form, basically. You have, when an aircraft goes up, the external pressure to the aircraft is lower, but you still need to breathe in that aircraft, so we pressurize the aircraft. It's called a pressure hull. Basically what that does is the air inside is at a higher pressure than the air outside. So the air inside is blowing up like a balloon. Now that's all right under one cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles, blah, 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 blah. But the problem is every single time you do a cycle, that metal fatigue, the metal itself fatigues slightly. And we've got what we call a shelf life on aircraft. Now I think it was in 2022, the Air Force released that there was about 10,000 to 11,000 cycles on Air Force One, on the 2 Air Force Ones that we have. Now, the issue with that is Air Force One isn't your typical airliner. In fact, it's really not a typical airliner. It's such a vast different aircraft to basically any other aircraft. It runs more like a business jet. It can do short cycles, medium cycles, long cycles, and the problem is, when you've got such a mix of cycles on an aircraft, it doesn't just work in the same way that something that's always doing short haul will work or something that's always doing long haul will work. It works in a very strange way because the metal itself doesn't adapt in the same fashion depending if it's a long cycle aircraft or a short cycle aircraft. And because Air Force One is all of these combined, it's got a very odd way of metal fatigue. Coupled with the fact that these aircraft are touching 35, 40 years. You know, this aircraft was brought into service in the George Bush era, the first George Bush of all the eras. So it'd be 1990 when this aircraft was actually introduced into its role as Air Force One. That makes getting parts availability very hard. Not to mention that the actual aircraft itself is a very complex aircraft. The amount of systems and everything on it. And the fact that it's carrying the most important person, arguably, in the world. All of that put together, yes, it looks mint. Like, I've seen Air Force One in person. It's a very elegant looking aircraft. However, that doesn't excuse the fact that this aircraft is also very old. It's very hard to maintain. It's very expensive to maintain. And we don't know to the exact extent of when this aircraft could have a catastrophic failure of its pressure hull. That's why we need a new Air Force One. It's not Trump pushing this Air Force One out of nowhere that we need to replace it. He's pushing it, but this has been on the cards with Boeing for about 10 years that they knew that they would have to have an Air Force One made. So yeah, Dave, you have no idea what you're talking about. Please shut up when it comes to this. Just because something looks mint, it's not like an old used car with 10,000 miles on the clock. So yeah. Anyways, he's an idiot. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that lovely things that you want to do in the. If you don't agree with me, then you probably stupid. But feel free to argue with me in the comments, because I'd love this argument of whether or not Air Force One should be kept, the original VC-25As. But thank you very much for watching. Peace.